Hello, I'm Dr. Naraniecki, and in this video I'll provide some supplementary material or some supplementary ideas to help understand Tolstoy's literature, particularly with the religious context of Tolstoy's literature. I mean, following the advice of the German philosopher Schelling, in the past I've published on Schelling, so he's one of my favorite philosophers. Well, Schelling argued that literature, art and particularly literature, was not just for entertainment, but rather as it was a form of prophecy. And within artistic creation, there are clues to future possibilities. So the Russian intellectuals of this particular time and Russian writers would read a lot of the great works of the Western, produced in the West, for the prophetic gleanings that they believed that they could discern within these texts. And the same goes for their writing. I mean, the reason for writing was not to provide entertainment. It's not like today when people just pick up any book at the bookstore on sale and then or whatever, and then read it casually on a train or in the office during some downtime, just for a bit of entertainment. No, writing for people like Tolstoy and Dostoevsky was not about creating entertainment. It was a prophetic sort of activity. And reading it was, in the same sense, engaging in a higher developmental activity as well. So it wasn't just about entertaining oneself, but looking for clues, aiming to develop oneself through these semi-prophetic texts. So writing and also reading was a serious activity. It wasn't a casual undertaking. You didn't casually pick up Tolstoy. It was a serious undertaking, requiring all one's attention. And Tolstoy, particularly, he sought to find the rationale for or the secret for a rational moral society, and we can see that play out in this great panoramic epic War and Peace. He never really seems to get there, and the kind of the tragic poetic end to his life, in which he packs up and wanders around and ends up dying away from home in a train station, that kind of thing. It sort of indicates that kind of that constant striving right to the very end. I mean, his particular religious teachings. I mean, after his great literary works, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, he then moved on to a series of religious or moral tracts or teachings, and in these we can see a blend of sectarian Protestant Puritanism, perhaps getting some of this from a lot of the German philosophers, Schelling, Hegel, Kant, plus an Oriental resignation before the mysteries of nature, and that comes out at times in characters like Kutuzov in War and Peace, and it is a feature of his thought. This was often owing to his lifelong interest in Buddhism and Confucianism. So it was a Christianity imbued by Oriental mysticism. So fundamentally, his religiosity had this Christian basis. However, it was colored by a lot of Oriental spiritual elements. Lifelong admiration of Buddhism and Confucianism, particularly Confucianism as a model for religion and morality, particularly family sort of harmony, that harmonization of the family. And we see that a lot in the Slavophile, the Russian intellectuals who were of this sort of non-Western persuasion that saw Russia as being a kind of Eurasian civilization, and the peoples that are at their best when the commune functions harmoniously, when the family functions harmoniously, when there is a kind of ordered hierarchy in social relations that is well integrated within the natural context of the immensity of the Russian landscape. So there is a naturalism combined with a kind of Confucianism there. I mean, it's not necessarily... So it's more the case that a lot of these ideas overlap with similar sort of concerns of Confucianism, and people like Tolstoy found in these Eastern traditions kind of a language for articulating those Slavophile views of the family, the community, the country, and the particular mission, the redemptive civilizational mission that Russia had, that it could then provide to an ailing, often degenerate West. Tolstoy was a bit... I mean, he was still looked at as a bit behind in his time in Russia. He was looked at as an aristocratic reformist and an aristocratic intellectual, preoccupied with the cursed question, that is, the meaning of art, history, and life. He seemed to be of the past, his ideas out of touch with the urban intellectual Russia. Unlike Chekhov and Gogol, Chekhov's sort of despondent nature, as we'll look at next week, and Gogol's sort of Ukrainian depressivism. So he was a bit out of favor, which is strange because in the non-Western world, Tolstoy's later religious writings and moral writings were hugely influential. Gandhi's non-aggression, sort of passive resistance, was inspired by reading of Tolstoy. So Tolstoy played a huge role in the anti-colonial movements, the pacifist anti-colonial movements in the non-Western world. I think also you can see in Tolstoy a tension between the gloomy influence of Schopenhauer, and that kind of a link with the... I mean, Schopenhauer was heavily influenced by Buddhism anyway. So the link between the Buddhist idea of finding peace in self-annihilation or in nothingness. You see that come out in Schopenhauer and in German philosophical tradition quite a bit. Particularly from Schelling onwards. So that kind of gloomy Schopenhauerian idea of getting rid of the self, in a sense, and that there's a tension between that and a totally renovated sort of his view of a totally renovated Christian society, albeit a more Eurasian colouring, emphasizing family and community harmony, ordering, rejection of Western rational individualism, a true Christianity of morals rather than metaphysics was something that Tolstoy referred to. So we see a one sense a sort of Christian, almost a Neoplatonic concern with an upward self-transcendence of the self, upward God-manhood type, early Neoplatonic, early sort of Byzantine sort of view of a deification of the self. We see that come out in War and Peace, in the character of Pierre Bezukhov, when he was about to be shot, and the sense of the self being sort of an absolute or eternal godlike element, that in his deepest self was something absolutely immortal and indestructible. So there is a bit of a tension, I think, that plays out in some of, in Tolstoy's writing, a tension between Eastern mysticism and Western sort of Neoplatonic mysticism coming out in the Byzantine Russian Orthodox context. So I mean that's how these play out, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because a lot of these ideas, these thoughts, play out in their characters, play out in a setting, play out in a landscape even. The image of a tree at a certain point, the image of a field, peasants harvesting, all these kind of things, characters. What are the positive characters to look at in a particular novel? Often it's the peasants that are portrayed, if not fully psychologized and represented more symbolically than anything. They're often the ones that are portrayed the most positive, not the dashing young hero or the upstanding member of the society. So these are things to look out for, and this particular religious context is just a way of helping to explain why that is the case.